Hey guys, Rob and Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe, with episode 2, man, Deep Throat of the X-Files. This one dropped September 17th, 1993, going back a little ways, not as far as Space 1999, which I was thinking today. Feels strange to have not watched or reviewed a Space 1999 episode in a bit. This one compliments of director Daniel Sackheim. He would, in all, direct 5 episodes of the X-Files, including the one that we're looking at today, but Conduit, The Host, SR819, just a couple. But also, too, an interesting little Easter egg of sorts. You know, I'm going to do this, prod and poke, look around. Mr. James Wong, who is one of the producers on this episode, the director of Final Destination and Final Destination 3, would also go on to direct 4 episodes in Season 4, Season 10, and Season 11, including the musings of the cigarette smoking man, which is pretty cool. Trying to think, there was, it seemed like there was another, there is another Easter egg. What is this? I'm going through, and, some of this, even though the X-Files is really sort of, closer to me than Space was in terms of my remembrance. Is this right? Is IMDb right? The first time we see Skinner is episode 21, and then we won't see him again until season 2, and then he's sort of like a main character. That just blows my mind away. I was thinking, how many times, do you watch Raiders of the Lost Ark or The Temple of Doom, and you sort of sometimes almost expect to see Sean Connery, even though the only one he's in is the third one, The Last Crusade, but that was the impact he had, and the impact Skinner has. It just blows my mind away. But anyway, so that's curious, and I think the episode is Tombs, the sequel to Squeeze, which I believe is episode 3, so... Anyways, Chris Carter, of course, remains our writer. I'm thinking Daniel Sackheim, also known for a couple of episodes of The Walking Dead, Game of Thrones, and the new Jack Ryan, which is interesting. A few episodes there as well. I believe the cinematographer here is new as well on that episode. John S. Bartley did not write cinematographer above his name, but I'm assuming, since that's what I gravitate to, that is the cinematographer. It gave us 72 episodes, man, from 93 to 96. He had shot things like Eight-Legged Freaks, Wrong Turn, and 45 episodes of The Bates Motel. Isn't that something? This episode gives us a couple Deep Throat, right? So we're introduced to Deep Throat. And I was thinking, kind of interesting how, the first time Deep Throat and Mulder meet, it's in the bathroom. Go to the movie Fight the Future, and of course it'll be Kurtzwell who will meet him in the bathroom, sort of awkwardly. And I thought, isn't that kind of interesting? There was also something else that went along with that. Maybe it'll come to my mind. But anyways, so you got the introduction of Deep Throat, which is cool. We'll see him quite a bit here for a bit. But also Seth Green is in this. And I'm not going to try to pronounce the girl's name, but Zoe. Him and his character name is Emil, if I remember. Him and Zoe will play an interesting role in this episode. Seth Green is just so much fun in this episode, man. Him and the girl, both of them together. Jerry Hardin, of course, plays Deep Throat. Forgot he was in Cujo. It's interesting. Just sort of a side note, Scully, this is the first time we see her wear her gold cross. This will come back in other episodes, right? So let's... It's interesting. So, Deep Throat. And by the way, before I forget, I really do need to thank my brother-in-law, Brandon, who really was instrumental in helping me to get my intro for the X-Files series in order. So, my appreciation and thanks to him. Deep Throat. This is sort of a continuation of building the foundation of the mythology of the X-Files, the alien conspiracy the government's hiding. And so Deep Throat feels as an extension to Pilot in many ways. And that will go a long ways in building an interesting foundation for the series. With Deep Throat, what we got here is Mulder and Scully will take a trip out to Ellis Air Force Base, where apparently a pilot has been missing for 4 months. The wife has reached out to the FBI. And so, but the military will not give any explanation as to his whereabouts. And so this is an opportunity. There are things about this that strike Mulder as an opportunity that perhaps this is worthy of a X-File. And so, against the advice of Deep Throat, who will warn Mulder off of this, we know Mulder will go anyways, right? So him and Scully get on I think they just drive out there. And so really what we're having here is 6 pilots since 1963 have basically been chalked up as just missing in action. They've just disappeared with no real, explanation. Scully mentions the fact that the rumors are that they maybe were shot down in while over Russian airspace, spying, whatnot. But Mulder doesn't believe that. He believes something much more sinister is at work here. And so they'll show up to this town. They'll visit the wife. She will basically lay this out. And so they will start poking and prodding, as Mulder and Scully will continually always do throughout this episode. And so, the military, though, is well aware that their presence is there, and they are watching very closely, and then eventually will take action, some really harsh action against the two. And this is an interesting episode because we really start to see Scully take or begin to make a lot of investment in Mulder in terms of their relationship. She starts to see that the things that he believes in do or can have great consequence. And how many times will we see throughout the X-Files where their lives are in jeopardy more than once, and not just with the mythos, but with just the standalones. I mean, I think Orion is one, but several times we'll see where Scully's life or Mulder's life are in jeopardy, and the characters are written so well that this will mean a lot. In fact, even in episode 2, in this early in Deep Throat, there'll come a moment when Mulder haven't gone back out. They try to get this, I think he's a general or a colonel, and he's sort of agreed to meet with them like a week from then. Mulder doesn't buy it, so they go to his house and they catch him as he's coming into the house, into his house. And of course, as soon as they announce themselves, he's just like, "Get off my property!" And so then they're hit by a guy who Mulder doesn't even trust right off from the start. Guy who poses as a journalist. He's a little bit more than that. But Mulder is able to extract a little information from him in terms of if he were to search out people there that might have seen a UFO, where would he go? And so he points him to this diner, which is, in the commentary, is based loosely on a real place outside of an Air Force base. I can't remember if it's Ellis or not, somewhere. But anyways, so he goes, and this is where they meet. They go out before they ever go to that place. They go there first. From there, they go out to at night. They go out to the perimeter of the Air Force Base, where they witness some interesting phenomena in the night sky. That's where they meet Emil and Zoe. back at the diner. They're feeding them, and of course Mulder is just soaking up anything that Seth Green can give. And it's interesting, in terms of Emil. He makes this point where he's talking about having seen some of the stuff up in the sky, and Mulder's like, well, what do you think they are? Are they UFOs? And his response is interesting. He says some kind of, he believes there to be some kind of Star Wars cyber tech, newfangled hardware, right? Probably rolling out for Desert Storm 2 or something like that. And he makes the point that they'll probably cruise right by right over Saddam's house. They'd be like, and of course that gets a laugh out of Mulder. It is interesting. This is 93, so the Gulf War. I actually volunteered for that thing. It'll be 10 years later before the second act will happen, and in 06, I believe, is when Saddam Hussein actually will be hung for his crimes, which I didn't realize. He actually tried to get put in front of a firing squad. I think he thought that would be the easiest way out, but the court denied him on that, and that's why he got hung. It's interesting, but I thought it was interesting, right? That sort of is laid out, and 10 years later we will see the second act, for better or worse, unfold. And so they go back multiple times. They go back to the wife's house. I think this time the husband mysteriously is brought back, and so they go to see. Maybe I think before that, the wife takes them over to her neighbors who also experienced a similar thing, but her husband had been given back, and he was not himself, man. So basically these test pilots something's happening to them, and then the military is basically wiping their memory of anything they might remember of the things that they're seeing or working with, and then they're like almost like vegetables given back. It's sort of when the wife in question gets her husband back unannounced, and she begs Mulder and Scully to come because she doesn't know who this guy is, and it's like right out of the invasion of the body snatchers. But Mulder gets him when he throws a question at him about aeronautics, and the guy can't remember, and so they start to figure his mind's been wiped. And so Mulder ultimately, even though they have been warned not to mess around, Mulder ultimately will head back out to the base, and of course without Scully, and he will go out too far, and he will witness quite an interesting phenomena of a craft of sorts. You never really told for sure. You don't really know for sure if this is an experimental craft. Most likely it's experimental. Mulder mentions early in the episode that his understanding is when Roswell went down, pieces of the craft went out to like 6 different places, and this was one of them at Ellis Air Force Base. And so probably what you have here going on is the experimental use of real alien technology to build craft. And so he sees this firsthand. Well, it's not long, he gets captured. And that really brings on a most frightening aspect of the show, where he is, basically put on a gurney man, and he's in an operating room, and it is a frightful. I've been in operating rooms. I've actually been through brain surgery, and it kind of it triggered a little bit of uneasiness in me to kind of see that. But it is a nightmarish quality, and it sort of stabs at the issue of abductions and testings, and are aliens testing on people, or is it something else? And so Mulder basically has what he saw wiped out. And by now we find out the journalist isn't a journalist. He actually works for the base security. Him and Scully, she is able to subdue him, and at gunpoint forces him to take her back out to the base. to find Mulder. When Mulder is delivered to her, of course, he's almost half zombified, man. It's scary. But they only took certain things, which just shows you just how good they are. They didn't mess with anything else. They just took what they wanted. And that in of itself is pretty frightening. It does beg a lot of wonderments, if that's a word, of what, even now today, what are they capable of doing to you in terms of the government, the military-industrial complex, and I don't trust any of it, man. As far as you can throw it, I do not trust it, man. I do not. Too often, I think government looks for things to use as easy, ready-made excuses to continue to trample upon people's abilities to just live out their freaking lives. And we've seen it through COVID. We're seeing it again now, the war in Ukraine. I mean, it's just, I don't trust it, man. And I have a fear, a rising fear, that as I delve deeper and deeper back into the X-Files, and in a way where I have to talk about it, I don't know, my level of cynicism may just, it may just really, I don't know, get the better of me or something. And so they will escape. They will be allowed to leave. I guess that's the best way to phrase it. They will be allowed to leave, and at the very end, almost as a bookend, Mulder will have another visitation by Deep Throat, in which case the relationship is established. The promise is there to help. He'll help him, because in the end, Deep Throat wants the truth, as he lays it out for Mulder. And Mulder, of course, is still a bit queasy about the fact that someone has reached down into his mind and taken something from him, and he wants to know what it is. And Deep Throat basically leaves him with, in terms of aliens being on Earth, Mulder, they've been here for a long time, which is interesting, very interesting. I'm trying to think if there's anything else worthy to. It is. I was sort of taken back. I love it when Mulder, when the journalist, when we think he's a journalist, makes mention of the UFO nuts. And I love it when Mulder refers right back with, those that you refer to as UFO nuts, because he takes it personal. I love it. Absolutely love it. I don't think there's anything really else. One thing is, the pilot that's returned to his wife, it is interesting, and that's how the episode really begins, actually, is with the military police basically banging down the door. He has stolen a military vehicle. He is rough shape when they find him, man. He is all full of rash and just, he's just been through something. One of the things that he was doing when delivered back to his wife was sprinkling fish food on stuff, which is just weird. Must have been a chemical in there or something, right? Budahas was his name. The Budahases. I don't know if there's really anything else. It's a great episode, man. It's solid, man, through and through. The relationship really is beginning cemented very quickly between Mulder and Scully. The entrance of Deep Throat. It's going to be a while before we see Skinner, unfortunately. I want to say episode 3, man, is I want to say it's Squeeze. It is Squeeze. So Squeeze is up, man. And then, of course, Tombs much later on. But a little bit more of a Monster of the Week episode. So I'm looking forward to that. That is a great episode. They all are freaking great, right? One thing, recently I was a part of a podcast, the Jaws franchise show, the Graveyard Shift guys, Glenn, our Monday reviewer, and Will. That link is down below, top of the pile of links. So if you're a lover of Jaws and want to hear that link is down below. As always, man, trust no one. The truth is out there. And as always, go Bills.